In this video, you will learn how to translate words into expressions. When you translate words into expressions, you want to look for key words that tell you what operations to include: add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Let's look at some possible keywords for addition. Added to, plus, sum of, more than, increased by, total of, and. These are all words that signal that you're going to have addition in your expressions. Example number 1, the sum of 7 and a number. The key word here that tells us what operation we will use is sum. Then we look to see what are we going to be adding together: 7 and a number. We can write those down to start our expression by writing down a 7 and a variable. Let's use x. Now we just have to know where to put the plus sign. The and in between the 7 and a number is the perfect place for the plus sign. And that's it. There's our first expression. The sum of 7 and a number translates to 7 plus x. A similar one you might see is the sum of a number and 7. The difference is just that the two terms are switched around. So instead of 7 first, we put a number or x first, and then the plus sign, because that's where the word and is in the expression. And finally, we can represent the 7, obviously, with the number 7. So the sum of a number and 7 is written as x plus 7. Example number 2, a number more than 7. Let's find the keywords. We have a number. That would represent our variable. We could use x again. More than, that sounds like addition. 7. Now, this phrase, more than, is a little bit tricky. Anytime you see the word than, it's going to change up your order. So a number more than 7, we're actually going to be starting with 7. Then we put our plus sign. So the phrase, a number more than 7, is actually written as 7 plus x. What happens if we switch it around and say 7 more than a number? Remember, with more than, we have to switch the order. So start with x, a number, and then we can add the plus sign and 7. So 7 more than a number is written as x plus 7. Let's look at the keywords for subtraction. Subtracted from, minus, difference of, less than, decreased by, fewer than, and take away. Example number 3, the difference of 7 and a number. The key word is difference. The order stays the same in this case. So we can represent 7, and then the minus sign goes where the word and is, and finally x. So the phrase, the difference of 7 and a number, has to go in order, 7 minus x. If we switch the order of the words in the phrase and have the difference of a number and 7, we just switch the order of the terms, x minus 7. Example number 4, a number less than 7. Here are all of our key words. Less than indicates subtraction. But remember how than is a switch word. We switch the order of the terms. So we start with 7. Once we have 7 written down, then we can do less than. And how much less than 7? A number less than 7. So 7 minus x. Let's try switching the order again. Let's try 7 less than a number. We have to start with the variable x because than is a switch word. And then we can represent 7 less than that number with minus 7. So 7 less than a number is x minus 7. Let's look at what the keywords for multiplication would be. Multiplied by, times, product of, twice, and of. And the main keywords for division are divided by, quotient of, and split into. Example number 5, 3 times a number. We already have the keywords and the terms highlighted. This one's pretty straightforward. Let's just put down 3 and then times. We can use this symbol. And for a number, we can use the variable x. But hold up a second. I see 3xx or 3 times times. It's a little confusing, don't you think, having two x symbols there? So this is why you normally don't see the x symbol used for times when you are doing algebra. Instead, we normally just write it as 3x. The numbers being right next to the variables represents multiplication. Let's take this one a step farther. 3 times a number decreased by 5. We already know 3 times a number is 3x. Decreased by is one of the keywords for subtraction. And then since it's decreased by 5, we can write that as minus 5. So 3 times a number decreased by 5 can be written as 3x minus 5. Example number 6, the quotient of a number and 3. Quotient of is a keyword for division. Again, we can represent a number with the variable x, and then we will write 3 after the division symbol. Now you remember we don't usually use the symbol for multiplication, the x, in algebra. Well, similarly, we don't use the division sign very often in algebra. Instead, we use the fraction bar. The order of the terms is still important. In the first expression, we wrote down x, the division symbol, and 3. Well, when we write it as a fraction, the division symbol is the fraction line. So x goes on top, the divided by is the line, and 3 goes on the bottom. Either of these technically represents the quotient of a number and 3. But when we're dealing with algebra, the standard way of writing division is as a fraction. So you'll want to get used to doing it that way. Let's extend this one a bit. 4 more than the quotient of a number and 3. Remember, than is a switch word. So instead of starting with 4, we're going to have the plus 4 at the end. And we already know that the quotient of a number and 3 is represented with x over 3. So 4 more than the quotient of a number and 3 sounds really complicated, but it's not too bad. We can write it out as x over 3 plus 4. And our final example, twice the total of a number and 9. Twice is one of the keywords for multiplication. It really means times 2. So we'll put down 2, and then we have the total of a number and 9. Total means add, and we'll start with a number, x, and then plus 9. Now the issue here is the 2 is being multiplied times the entire total. So we need to put some grouping symbols around the total of a number and 9. So we simply add some parentheses around the outside of x plus 9. So the phrase twice the total of a number and 9 can be written as 2 times the quantity of x plus 9. Now you should know how to translate words into algebraic expressions. Thanks for watching.